she wanted justice 7 years ago and never got it. And here we are today, worse off than we were back then. And I know it's directly related to the trauma she suffered at Cumberland Hospital.
This Connecticut mom is speaking to CBS 6 about her daughter, one of 20 former patients who have filed a $127 million lawsuit against the Cumberland Hospital for Children and Adolescents in New Kent County and the company that owns it, UHS.
The crux of this lawsuit is an abuse of power. It's an abuse of position, it's an abuse of your medical license, and it's an abuse of children, both physical and sexual. And that starts at the top.
Attorneys say that would be the hospital's former medical director, who 12 of the plaintiffs are accusing of sexual assault. CBS 6 first reported back in February that the Virginia State Police were investigating allegations against Dr. Daniel Davidow, who had been at the Cumberland Hospital since 1996. He has since left the hospital. Now the lawsuit filed in Richmond Circuit Court further details the accusations and the time frame.
We have allegations in our complaint that go as far back as 2008.
The accusers are all former female patients, some as young as 12 when they allege the abuse happened. Each one tells a similar story, claiming that Davidow would take them to a private room and tell them he was going to check for their femoral pulse, which is located on the inside of the thigh. The suit alleges the doctor would then, quote, place his hand beneath the minor patient's undergarments and sexually abuse the minor patient by intentionally touching the minor patient's intimate parts.
Dr. Davidow wasn't taking the femoral pulse of male patients. He wasn't taking the femoral pulse of patients when their parents were in the room. He was only taking the femoral pulse of patients when they were alone, when they didn't have somebody there to speak for them, and when they were the most vulnerable.
Some of the plaintiffs allege they were abused multiple times, with one patient claiming Davidow also struck her with a belt if she would not behave. The suit states multiple patients reported the alleged abuse to nurses, therapists, and other staff members. So, quote, the defendants knew or should have known defendant Davidow was sexually abusing female patients on a week-to-week basis, but did not report the sexual abuse to the appropriate authorities on every occasion.
We hope the message is not to turn a blind eye. We hope the message is where there's smoke, there's fire. And if there are children crying out for help repeatedly over years, maybe we should band together to do something about it.
As he says, should have happened for the patient with the initials MJM, who was under Davidow's care in 2012. Her mother says she was admitted to Cumberland Hospital at 13 years old for an eating disorder and suicidal behavior, and discharged a broken child.
He checked her pulse in her private area, is what she had told us.
As a parent, hearing those words from your daughter about someone you trusted, try to describe what that feels like.
It's pretty gut-wrenching because I didn't send her down there for that. I sent her down there to get help, and now you have made this far worse, and she has carried this for 7 years.
And MJM's mom says that's not all the now institutionalized 22-year-old carries with her as the result of her stay at Cumberland.
There was an autistic boy who entered her room. He touched her inappropriately under her shirt, and she had to fend him off because nobody came to her aid. And she said it was pretty rough too. It was not easy for her to get him out of her room. And when she complained to them, nothing happened.
Vaughn would post this to Facebook September 17th, 2012, stating inappropriate touching is never okay, no matter what one's mental capacity is. Though she says that's how the hospital justified the alleged abuse. The lawsuit claims MJM would be sexually abused again by the same resident, and she was also the victim of physical abuse, along with multiple other children as young as 9 who claim they too were victims at the hands of other patients and staff, like psychotherapist Herschel Mickey Hardin, indicted in February on charges that he sexually abused a former female patient.
It wasn't just sexual assault with Mickey Hardin, it was physical assault, it was physical abuse, and it was poor decision making.
The lawsuit alleges Hardin physically battered male patient HGB by smacking him across the face with an open palm, causing him to fall on the floor and be injured. The boy was just 11 years old at the time. That same patient also alleges he was once told by a nurse, quote, "It will be fine," after he reported being sexually abused in his room by an older resident.
There's nothing that can replace that innocence in a child. But ultimately, if we're hoping for change, if we're hoping for companies like UHS and for Cumberland to actually make decisions that are better for the children in their care, we have to make it hurt where it matters to them most.
What you took away from these kids and what you did to the families is irreplaceable. There's no amount of money that can give us our life back, give us our daughter back. It's comparable to death for so many parents. And we know that's final.
According to the Virginia Board of Medicine website, Dr. David Dow currently has an inactive medical license. We reached out to the former medical director through his attorney and the other defendants in this case for comment. At this time, these are just accusations and must be proven in court. We caught up with Governor Northam on these developments.
And again, it's something that we take seriously and we'll be paying close attention to. But we want the patients that end up at Cumberland to be obviously treated well, and so that's be something that we follow as we move forward.
Next week, we travel south to interview a former patient who claims she was repeatedly sexually abused by Dr. David Dow.
He had me slide down my pants, and then he grabbed my underwear actually and pulled them down.
What did he take from you?
He took my ability to function normal for a very long time. He took a lot. I want to see him locked up and not able to hurt anyone ever again, physically, mentally, sexually, ever.
That's next Tuesday at 11.